Want to thank you guys for coming out to the call tonight. This is my weekly Here to Help You webinar. We meet every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and usually lasts for about an hour or so. Do these calls once a week for you guys just to come on here and I do some sort of a demo or a presentation, and then I answer questions that I got in through the replay form the previous week and any emails that I got. And then if you guys have any live questions here or live on the call, we'll take those as well. I do these calls once a week just for you guys. There's nothing usually for sale here. Occasionally I might mention a product that's being launched, but it's not that I'm here to promote that product. It's just I want to, let you know about it. And if you have any questions, be able to answer those. Like I said, this is your chance once a week to come on here and just, learn a little something, get to ask questions, and hopefully, what you hear tonight will be able to help you some way in your business in some way. So tonight's topic, what we're going to talk about is something that was kind of spur of the moment. Over the past week, maybe week and a half, I know of at least 3 times that I've made a product purchase that the sales flow didn't go right. I either didn't get access to what I had bought or got stuck in some sort of a OTO upsell downsell loop and couldn't get out of it. So that prompted me to think about maybe I should do some sort of a little training to give you guys some pointers on how to prepare your products when you do have products that you're getting ready to sell, how to prepare the sales flows and be able to test it and know that once you do launch, you're not going to have problems with the processing of the sales and the customers being able to get access to whatever it is they purchase from you. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, and it's not going to be a really long presentation. And I'm going to give you the process that I go through, and like I said, hopefully it'll help you guys in launching your own products. So what we're going to talk about tonight is a pre-launch checklist testing your product sales flow. Now, one of the things you'll hear a lot in the IM niche in particular, and you'll hear it in other niches as well, but it's generally tailored towards people that are creating products. One of the things you'll hear real often is don't worry about the perfection in the product creation, just get it out there and fix or improve what's wrong later. And for the most part, I agree with that. A lot of people, when they're getting ready to create their first product, or even, may not even be their first one, but they want to strive for perfection, and they'll let that stagnate them on launching a product, when reality is you're never going to have it absolutely perfect as far as the product goes, and there's always room for improvement. But as long as you allow yourself the means to be able to update a product and fix things as you see that need to be added or things that need to be fixed in them, that's perfectly fine to launch a product that's not totally perfect. Like I said, for the most part, this is fine, and I agree with it. The big thing is you want to make sure that the product that you do release is usable. But there's one area where this saying doesn't apply, and I feel like a lot of people take that first statement and just let it apply to their whole product launch process in addition to the product itself. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is the part of your product launch that does need to be as perfect as possible. And that's the sales flow process. The sales flow process is extremely important in launching of your product, that you get that as close to perfect as you can. And it's not really that hard. I mean, once you've been through the launch of a product and set up, the product to get it ready for sale, it's pretty much just a repetitive set of steps you go through for each area to make sure things are going to go right. But this is one area where everything must work, or you're going to cause yourself lots of unnecessary grief. And depending on how much aggravation it causes the customer that's purchased something from you, you could lose future sales from them too. There is some people that when they launch a product, I know that they haven't tested their sales flow. They never do. So I'm really skeptical if I'll even buy something from them, because I don't want to go through the aggravation of having to contact them and tell them what went wrong and try to get access to the product. So this is really common in internet marketing, that people will just rush through the actual mechanics of launching their products. So, how do you test your sales flow? Well, you can start by testing it yourself, but what helps the most is to get a friend to test it too. A lot of times we're so close to the process that we tend to overlook the little things, the things that in our mind we know how it should work, and maybe we see it and envision it working right, and we sort of overlook some of the things that that could be obvious to someone else. But if you have a third party, a friend or relative or anything else, a colleague or something to check it, a lot of times they can discover glitches and errors that you've made right away because it's brand new and fresh to them, so they're going through it having not ever seen any part of your sales process or the product at all. So let's talk about the components of a sales flow. This is probably where things should start and what you need to be aware of. Well, first off, you obviously have the product files. These are the actual product that the customer is going to get access to, whether it be something they download or something they access through a membership site or something they have to log in through a membership site to access it, or software, whatever it might be. There's different types of product files. The second part is the actual graphics that are used throughout your sales process and your web pages, and then you have the actual web pages itself. And there could be several of these. The most common you have is the actual sales page and then a download page. That's the two pages you absolutely have to have in selling a product online. And then the fourth part is the actual delivery mechanism. And this is where most people go wrong and make mistakes, is in the delivery process. Figuring out how to get that to work right. And then the fifth part, and this is actually the start of things, is the actual sales process itself. And what I'm talking about with the sales process is putting the payment buttons on the right pages and having the pages linked to each other, especially if you have a sales funnel set up where it has upsells and downsells. So this is my process for checking a sales flow. And what I like to do is I like to work backwards. In other words, I like to start from the end where things end up at and work my way backwards, making sure that all along the line, things are tied together, which means I start with the upload of all of the product files and the graphics first. That's the very first thing when I'm setting up a product for launch, is to upload the product files, and then the actual graphics are going to be used on the pages. Next, I like to upload all the HTML pages, and of course the graphics were uploaded previously. Now, we're taking into account here, we're not going to talk about designing the sales pages and the graphics and that type of thing. We're taking into account here, you already all have all of this ready. It's just the process of getting it all set up so it works right. At this point, once you have your HTML pages and your graphics uploaded and you have your product files uploaded, at this point you can test it and make sure that all the pages are displaying properly and that all of the download links are working, or the access links are working, depending on how the product is actually accessed. Now this step would also include any of the upsell or downsell pages that you have. Depending on how you're building out your sales funnel, it could be several HTML pages you're using. And now I'm saying HTML pages, but this actually translates back to WordPress as well if you're designing your pages in WordPress. Although you're not actually uploading pages in WordPress, you're actually creating them. So you want to have a checklist of the pages that you're making to make sure that you've uploaded all the graphics and that they're all displaying right and they're all working right. So, even though I'm saying HTML pages, you can actually translate this back to the WordPress setup too if you're using WordPress for the actual page delivery. And like I said, the big thing, what you're looking for here is just to make sure everything is displaying right and that all the links are working. Now, you're still in this step right here. It's you that's been looking at this product launch over and over again. You can still make some mistakes here. Most common mistakes is typos. You have words spelled wrong that after a while, after you see them so long, they look like they're spelled right to you, but somebody else, once they come along and test your sales flow, they could maybe help you find some of these typos. That happens to me a lot. that I'll spell a word wrong and not catch it until I have somebody else going through the process and they'll catch the words that I spell wrong. So, that's a common thing there, but it's not one of the things that's going to kill your website from working if you do have typos spelled wrong or maybe little formatting errors. But this is the type of thing that somebody else will catch for you later as you're having them to check it for you. Then the next step is setting up and testing the delivery mechanism. And like I said, this is the part where most people have problems, is actually setting up the access that people have to the various parts of the product that you're selling, and whether it be, like I said, either straight download pages or if it's a membership site. Now this part's really easy if you aren't protecting the downloads. If you're using just a straight download page, it's really easy to check the delivery mechanism, make sure everything's working. It gets more complicated if you have to deal with, securing downloads, like either through Amazon S3, you're wanting to make sure that people have sessions set up, or if you're dealing with a membership site, it makes it more complicated. But this is the part where it could take you quite a bit of time to test everything and make sure it's working right. And then the next step is the placing of your payment buttons on the sales pages and any upsells or downsell pages. Now, in addition to these payment buttons, especially if you have, a sales funnel set up with upsells and downsells, you have the no thank you links that need to be placed on the right pages and obviously need to be linked to the correct pages they're going to lead to should somebody click on one of those. So that's really critical there too. That's wherein that happened to me this past week, that I got stuck in an upsell loop where there was no getting out of the upsell. Even though they had a no thank you link on there, it linked back to the same exact page. So no matter how many times you clicked it, you kept loading the same page over and over and over again. And that was a little aggravating, but at that point when you get stuck in a loop like that, the only thing you can do is just close out the window, because you're not going to progress with it any further. But this is the things you need to check when you're setting up your payment buttons, is make sure that you have the correct links on there. If you're using JVZoo or Warriors Plus, each page that you're setting up in your product sales funnel, they actually give you the right code for each one. You just need to make sure that you've used the right code for each page, and that'll stop that from happening. Now, if you're using something like ClickBank, if you're using straight out PayPal links that you've created, it could get a little complicated figuring out your sales flow and your sales funnel if you're having to do it manually like that. But generally with JVZoo and Warriors Plus, they're going to give you the correct code. You just make sure you put them on the right pages. And then the final step after you have all of this done is to pretend you're a customer and go through the sales flow with a test purchase. This is extremely crucial that you go through it with a test purchase. Even at this point, if you don't have somebody else testing it for you, you got to go through it once by yourself and pretend that you're a customer that's just seeing this product for the very first time. Now, if you're using ClickBank, this is real easy to do, because ClickBank will actually generate a fake credit card for you to test with, so that you can walk through your whole sales funnel using that credit card they generate for you, so you can test every single step of it. So it's really easy if you're launching a product on ClickBank to be able to do this. Now, if you're using Warriors Plus or JVZoo, you can also do a test purchase as well, but they do require you to have a secondary PayPal account. If you're going to test it yourself, you'll have to have a second PayPal account with a little bit of money deposited into it. Now, with JVZoo, they actually have a test function where they will actually set up a special link for you to either use yourself or to give to a friend that sells the product for 1 penny. So somebody can go through the sales funnel, just spending 1 penny on each step. Now, Warriors Plus also has a test function, but they don't have it set for it puts the price down to 1 penny. It's whatever the price is you've set it up at. So if you're going to use Warriors Plus to do a test purchase and go through their test scenario, you actually probably want to lower the price initially to something like 1 penny or 10 cents or something like that. So as you're going through it, you're not having to pay full price for every product that you're selling throughout that sales funnel. Now you could do it with, without changing the prices. But if you're having a friend to test for you, that means you're going to want to, you know, send them a refund for every one of the purchases that they made, which if you're using Warriors Plus or JVZoo, that's going to come back on, show up as a refund on the sales stats on the product. So you really don't want to do that with either Warriors Plus or JVZoo, to leave things at full price and have to refund somebody the money for testing. You're better off to, like with Warriors Plus, if you're going to use them, is to, before you actually launch the product to the public, just go through and make every one of the products in the sales funnel 1 penny or 10 cents. That way somebody's not out a lot of money, and plus it don't show up as a refund when you refund them their money for helping you test. Now, once you've done this as a pretend customer, the best thing, and I always recommend this, is to go the extra step and get a friend to test it as well. Uh, Again, we're so close to these products. We work on them for so long. To us, we see the process and everything seems to be right. And even though we've went through it with a test purchase, there can still be things wrong that we don't catch, that if you have a friend to test it for you, they'll catch a lot of things that you don't see, that, like I said, you've seen it over and over again. It becomes second nature to you, and you don't see it because it's something that you've looked at over and over again 100 times, and it's just something that you're used to seeing. But like I said, having a friend to test these things for you, they'll go through the whole sales funnel through as a brand new customer that's never seen any part of it. So they really got a fresh set of eyes they can look at, and they will see every single thing that you have done, and they will know exactly where things are supposed to go as far as the next step. Now, it helps tremendously when you have somebody that can test for you like this. I can tell you how many times that somebody has launched a product over on the Warrior forum, and they haven't tested their sales flow, and you'll see immediately, just as soon as they launch their product, this post after post after post of saying, I couldn't get to my product, I couldn't get to the download, I'm stuck in a OTO loop, that type of thing. And that, it really looks bad to have that type of thing over on your thread on the if you're doing a WSO. Now, of course, if you're launching over on Warriors Plus or JBZoo, you don't see that feedback like that, but you're still generating a little bit of aggravation, probably, and maybe a little bit of mistrust with the person that made the purchase, that they may think twice about buying something from you again once they've been through a really aggravating ordeal trying to get to the product that they purchased from you. Okay, so that was, like I said, it was a really short training, and like I said, I've been through this 3 times, I know, in the last week and a half, of sales funnels that are not set up right, and I've had to contact the vendor and let them know where their process broke down. And like I said, it's really important that you do this, that you test the sales funnel process before you launch the product, because should it happen to be a really popular product, you get a really good affiliate that's going to send you a lot of sales, it could cause you a whole lot of grief by having just one part of the breakdown in this process. Now, there's always going to be things that can go wrong that's out of your control, like say the hosting company's having problems, or there's some router down out on the internet somewhere, PayPal might be having a problem, that type of thing, things that you don't have control of. There's nothing you can do about that. But the majority of the time, 95% of the time, it's problems that we cause ourselves by being in a hurry. And like I said, using that original philosophy, it doesn't matter if it's perfect, launch it and fix it later. That's fine for as well as far as your product goes. As long as it's still usable, they still get the use out of it, of whatever it is you sold to them. But you want them to be able to go through your sales funnel and be able to access the product, even if it is, to some point unfinished, without any problem. This is one area that, like I said, I feel a lot of people rush through, and maybe they don't understand how to actually set up the actual delivery mechanism. That's the most catching part that people have the problem with, is the actual delivery mechanism. And if you're using a membership site or something like that, it does get more complicated. And it's if you're first time setting up a secured download or a membership site, it's really in your best interest to get somebody to test it for you just to make sure things are going to go right. I couldn't tell you how many times over the past year I've made a purchase and got to the front end product just fine, but then decided to do one of the upgrades. And once I purchased the upgrade, I was still stuck at the original front end product and couldn't access the upsell or the upgrade. That's extremely aggravating too, having to contact the vendor and let them know that, even though you upgraded, you still don't have access to it. And, like I said, just having somebody else to test the product for you, they can tell you whether that's working right or not, whether they got access to any of the upsells or downsells. Of course, like I said, initially you should test it yourself first. And if you get a friend to test it for you, you're going to catch a lot of these things that you're going to overlook, even though you've went through a test yourself. Okay, guys. So that, like I said, it's not a long training on this, but I felt like it was something that I needed to talk about because I've seen this happen over and over again, especially on WSO launches. Whereas they're more forgiving over on the WSO threads than they are anywhere else, because they pretty much know over there they're getting a bargain to start with, so they may have to deal with a little bit of aggravation at some point in time. So they're a little more forgiving there, but if it's a really bad enough problem, it can still cause you a lot of problems even over there. The last thing I would like to suggest to you, and a lot of people overlook this, is setting up some sort of a support mechanism and having the links to your support on your main sales page. Because when most people have problems with a product, they have no idea how to contact you other than going back to the original sales page and seeing if there's any way of contacting you from the original point where they were introduced to your product purchase. So it's really critical that you have some sort of support mechanism set up, even if it's just an email. You can get Zendesk really cheap. I think it's like $24 for a year. So, having a support desk for people to be able to contact you if they do have problems, it's really easy to set up. And there's in most cPanel, if you have your hosting on uh, a web host that has cPanel, there's actually support desk that you can install from Fantastico or Softalicious, depending on which one your cPanel is using. So I would highly recommend that you set up some sort of a support desk is the best thing, but if nothing else, have a link to a contact email where they can contact you, because most people, like I said, they're going to go back to the main sales page if they have no other way of contacting you. That's where they're going to go first. If they can't contact you through that and they're still having problems, then it's not a WSO thread where they can leave you a message. Their next step is they're going to do a PayPal dispute, and you don't want that. Too many PayPal disputes, PayPal will flag your account, and you don't want that to happen to you. Okay, guys, do you have any questions on launching a sales flow? But did that make sense to you how I handle things by going through it in a backwards motion, starting from the very end and working my way back up to the actual sales point? Does that make sense to you? David says I go forward, then backward, and then test. It does, that's just my method, starting at the back and working my way forward. If you're more comfortable doing it, starting with the sales page and going through the process, as long as you go through it and, like I said, go through it yourself first, making some sort of a test purchase in some way yourself first, that's fine. Whichever way you want to do it, it's just, you need to develop that same step-by-step process for each time you launch a product. And like I said, it becomes second nature after a while to which step you got to work on next. And as you get used to, if you're dealing with membership site software, it gets easier and easier as each one you set up, because you get more used to the functionality of the software that you're using. So you know what steps to look through for that as well. The first time you set up any kind of a product for launch, it's going to be a little tedious and aggravation, trying to figure things out and make sure they're working, especially, if you're adding upsells and downsells. Because, even with regular HTML pages, you can still have things set up wrong to where somebody does an upsell purchase, and they still can't get to their app, so they still just have access to the regular products. So, but you know, for the most part, JVZoo and Warriors Plus will catch a lot of that process for you, but you can still have it, things go wrong in it on the actual delivery end, even though, they'll check to make sure your links are set up right. You can still have things wrong on your server, your hosting end. Or it says, when I produce my products, I go backwards also, so checking the sales funnel backwards makes sense. Yeah, I used to do, like David said, going from the front and going all the way through the process to the end. I used to do it that way. And I just, over the last few years, I just found out that it's easier for me to start from the back and make sure everything works from the backwards end back. One of the things you'll run into quite a bit, and this is something that you'll look at over and over again and not see it, but then somebody else is helping you test your phone and will see it, is typos in your download links. That happens to me quite a bit, even though, I do my best to try to make sure I don't make typos, but, it's still awful easy to fat finger a key and put an extra letter in there, or use a zero instead of a O, or that type of thing. So that still can happen really easily. So it always works best for me to upload my files first, and the pages are going to access those downloads, and just make sure those links work first. And like I said, even going through this, I still make mistakes occasionally and have somebody to let me know, the link's not working, or something is coming up, with a 404 error. That happens, occasionally. All right, guys. Well, I guess we'll call it a night. You guys have a great week. And if there's anything I can do to help you, just let me know.